Hey guys, in this session let us learn how to kill a particular process which consume high resource or which spawn multiple processes from a particular parent process. I have a shell script which contains a simple select query with 8 degree of parallel. This select query is going to consume high resource in the database. Okay, so let me execute this shell script first. So I can use a for loop to execute this shell script multiple times, or I can just open two different sessions and execute it separately. Okay, so if you want, you can just use a for loop to execute both the select queries using shell script, or open two different sessions and keep another session for monitoring. Now using top command I'll monitor the performance. Okay, just assume or imagine that you are a DBA and application team is complaining some hang in one of their jobs, and even you are also getting some alerts saying that some particular process or session is consuming high CPU in the database. Okay, so once I get a message from the monitoring tool, the first thing that I do is use this top command and check the process which consume high CPU, and I also look the idle percentage in the CPU percentage row, and if this idle percentage is getting less or it is decreasing, then CPU is consumed very high. Okay, even you can also check the load average. So if the 5 minutes load average is very high, then some particular process is consuming high CPU and causing the hang. Okay, so if you observe the top two process or the top process, only these two SQL plus sessions or process are consuming very high CPU. You can see 15% and 11%. But other processes are not consuming more than 10%. Only these two processes. You can identify the process ID 15291 and 15314. Okay. So in this case, I have identified the process ID. So this is the OS process ID or SPID from the database end. I already have this query which maps the OS process ID to get the details of the session level in the database. So let me open this terminal for monitoring. So let me give the OS process ID as 15291. This is on top of the top process, but I don't get any output or results. Why? So let me just check the other process as well. So this is the second process which is also consuming high CPU. So even both the PIDs are not getting any results. Okay, so if you want to cross verify, what you can do is you can just say select star from $process where SPID is SPID in 15314 and 15291. So these two processes which are there under the top command are not available in the database itself. So there is no such process ID which exists in the database level. Why? Because sometimes if there is a parent process and if that parent process is spawning multiple parallel slave processes, in that case each and every parallel slave process may be recorded in the database, but the parent process which trigger the multiple child process will not be recorded in the database level. Okay, so here these two are the parent process ID. Okay, so sometimes it may be difficult for the DBA in a very urgent situation where he need to kill the root process. Okay, so if the client is bleeding a lot of money due to some critical jobs, and if DBA need to suddenly kill those process to release the system resource so that the other critical jobs can use those system resource. So in that case, even if he kills the child processes, the parent process still spawn multiple jobs from the application level. Even if the application team is also not able to stop the job from their side gracefully, the only thing that you can do as a DBA is to kill the parent process from the OS level so that all the resource gets released from the database. So it will not happen all of a sudden, but it may take some time, like 5 or 10 seconds, to release the process and clean up all those process files. So there may be some temporary files created in the file system or the disks. So those temporary files also need to be cleaned up as part of the process shutdown. Okay, so now we are not able to identify these PIDs from the database end. So what we can do, let me use this query to check all the sessions which are running in my database. Okay, so here you can identify there are a lot of background and foreground processes which are running in the database, right? You need to narrow down the exact process which consume high resource. So here you can see that terminal is almost unknown for most of the processes. Okay, so with this detail you can just get some idea on the certain application details. Okay, so here you can see PTS 0. So this is something different. Since we executed the shell script from our own terminal, so it is showing the terminal name. But in reality, you may get some application related details. So under module or action, you may get the application name, and what that application is doing will be printed under action column. Okay, so here you can see the module name is KTSJ, and what that KTSJ job is doing, it is just coordinating with the KTSJ coordinator. Likewise, it has some slaves, and here you can see there is SQL plus, and it is showing the details of the connection, and you also got an SQL ID, right? So with this detail I get an idea that this or these sessions are not from the database end, which means they are not part of any background process, they are from the application end. Okay, so what I will do is I will just identify the SQL text from $SQL using the SQL ID, so that I can easily identify whether it is an application query or database internal query, right? So if this table does not seem to be database table, so this should be an application table only, right? So by seeing the query itself, we can easily identify whether it is an application query or database query. Now I have identified the SQL query, okay, but I don't have the parent process in my database, but I have all the child processes related to this query. Okay, so this is the SPID 15295, 15293. So if there are multiple sessions which are spawned in the database, then it should be exactly a parallel query. Okay, so there is nothing else that can spawn these many processes for a single SQL ID, right? So in this case, what I will do is I will go to the OS level and just grep with ora underscore p0. So ps-ef command gives all the processes which are running in the Linux, and I grep it with a parallel process. So this will give me all the parallel processes and their process ID. Now I have some idea. I just map these process ID with the parallel process ID, and I will verify whether these processes are related to the query, and it is clear that in the query itself there is a hint with a parallel. So this means that this query is obviously a parallel query, and all these OS process ID match with these PIDs. 15295 is here, right? And 15297 is here. Here. Okay. Now that I identified all the parallel slave processes, but I cannot kill each and every process by creating separate commands. I need to kill all the processes in one go. So what I can do? So I have created multiple select queries which will give me the alter system kill session command to kill all the processes or the sessions with their SID and serial number. Okay, so this query can be used to create alter system kill session command for all the sessions in the database. So second one gives me the output of the alter system kill session command only specific to the user and the SQL ID. The third one is specific to user and the status of the session, whether it is an inactive session or active session. If I need to kill all the inactive sessions, then I can use this query. And if I need to identify or filter only the sessions where the last call elapsed time is greater than 10,000, then I can use this. And if I need a query to kill all the sessions where SQL ID is not null, which means all the sessions should be having SQL ID, only those alter system kill session command will be created. And you can also filter with logon time or blocking session and related to Orman. Okay, so now I will be using the second one. Okay, I will note down the SQL ID. So this is my SQL ID. So I already have the SQL ID over here. I will just generate the alter system kill command. This is very easy, right? So instead of typing alter system kill session and SID, serial number, identifying each and every session, I just filtered the username and SQL ID and generated the alter system kill session command. And there are two ways. You can either specify immediate or you don't specify immediate. Okay, if you are not specifying immediate, then it may take some time, like 5 to 10 seconds to kill the sessions. Okay, and if I am specifying this immediate, then this may be quite more aggressive than not specifying anything. Okay, so let me execute all these commands. So here you can see this message, right? This Aura 00031 means the session is marked for kill and it will be killed in either 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, so the process needs to be cleaned up, right? Once you kill that particular process, immediately that process cannot be killed. So if that process is doing some work, that process needs to be notified that it needs to be shut down, and all the resources needs to be released from that process so that other processes can use that resource. So there are a lot of tasks which happen in the background. So those cleanup tasks will be happening during this phase. Now let me check again with this query. But you can still see that that particular SQL ID is running with some different SPID, right? So I have killed all the parallel slave processes, but I have not killed the parent process, right? So in this case, it may be very difficult for a DBA who does not know these mechanisms. So even after killing that process, still it is spawning multiple different slaves. So in this case, what we can do as a DBA, so we can again use this stop command and check whether some process is hogging up the CPU again. Okay, so if we just verify with the application team, they should notify that still the issue is happening. Why? Because you can still see there are two SQL Plus processes with different process ID which are still consuming CPU, which is 16885 and 16868. So let me note down these process ID. Okay, so in this case I'll just kill these process ID directly from the OS level. Okay, but I don't know whether these process IDs are related to that select query which is using parallel. So how I can identify? And I can also not see these PIDs in the database. These are the parent process ID, right? So earlier we were not able to see these parent process ID in the database. So even now we are not able to see 16885 in the database level. So you can just use ps-ef grep and use this process ID itself. Okay, so now you got some hint. So here you got the parent process ID and this is a child process ID, and this is a big-way connection. Big-way connection means local connection. Since I executed all those commands from local OS, it is showing big-way connection. So if it is if those SQL queries are executed from an application end, then this may be something different. Protocol may be different. Okay, and you can also see that SQL Plus is used to execute the query, right? So now I can also use ps-fu to identify all the local user sessions or the current processes which are running in my terminal. Okay, so this ps-fu shows the percentage of CPU used, percentage of memory used, and you can also see this shell script is executed and it is consuming almost 13% of CPU, and another session or another terminal which is also executing the same shell script, which is consuming almost 13.5% of CPU, right? And this is also the same process ID, 16868 and 16885. So 16885. Okay, so this may not be applicable to remote database connections. Okay, if someone else is executing a select query from his terminal, then those processes will not be listed here. Okay, so if you execute a command and if you need to identify what are all the processes that I am executing, then you can use this ps-fu command. Okay, so now what you can do is you can just use the OS process ID from here. So this is the SP ID, and just get with the SP ID. Here you can see that 16882 is a parallel process. So this is also another way to verify the processes which are related. Okay, so now let me kill these processes 16885 and 16868. Now let me again check the top command. You can see that still again there are another two processes, 17641 and 17638 are again spawning up and consuming the CPU. Okay, so this may happen in real time as well. Okay, no matter how many times you kill any of the process, and if you are not identifying the root process which is spawning up these processes, then you will end up searching for the process and waste time in killing the process. Okay, so this is why you always need to keep these commands handy. Okay, at last you need to map all those processes to find the root process. Okay, so in this case I know that the command is SQL plus, right? So I can also grep with SQL plus. Okay, so this may also give me some additional information, right? So in this case, even if I kill these PIDs, still processes are spawning, so there is no use of killing these SQL plus commands. Okay, so in this case let me check with this process ID. Okay, one 15290 and 15313. Why? Because this is the SQL plus command which is packed inside a shell script, and that shell script is executing as a parent process which is triggering this SQL plus script to execute the select query. So there is no use of killing this SQL plus command. Okay, again the parent process spawn another two SQL plus commands even if you kill these process IDs 17638 and 17641. You can see that there is nothing happened, still these queries are getting executed in parallel. Okay, so this is the way to identify the root process. Okay, so if you are not able to kill the process from the SQL plus command line, then the next action that you can take is to identify the top PIDs and directly kill those PIDs, and before that you need to research whether these PIDs are related to the parallel processes that needs to be killed. And once you kill these, still if processes are getting spawned up, in this case you need to identify the parent process of these top processes. So these two are parent process ID. Now I have identified the parent process ID, which is this one. So if I kill these two process IDs, then I can kill the parent process. So these two are the root process which are spawning these child process. Okay. So now I have killed the parent process. Now again kill these processes which are related to SQL plus. Okay. So we have to kill 17638 and 17641. Now if you check the top command, so all the resources are released and those two parallel processes are killed successfully. So here you can see this output is stopped once I killed the SQL plus session. So even after you kill the parent process, if still the child process is executing something, you need to kill that child process again. Okay. So these many sequential steps needs to be taken to identify the root process. Okay. And even after you kill the root process, you need to kill the relevant child process as well. Okay. So this kill -9 means, so this -9 option is used to send the instruction called sig kill to the particular process to abruptly kill the process. Okay. So this is similar to directly plugging off the power cable from your laptop instead of shutting down gracefully.